I think we're ready to start. Yeah? Good afternoon, distinguished guests, fellows, and members of the Academy. Welcome to this year's Johanna Quandt Young Academy's award ceremony at the Frankfurt Institute of Advanced Studies on this beautiful spring sunny afternoon. Aren't we very fortunate with weather? My name is Ruth Murdoch, and I'll be your MC for this event. The award ceremony marks the commencement of a new academic year for the Academy, and it's when we induct our new fellows and members. And this year we have several new appointments as well, which you'll hear about. Our new cohort met earlier today for a symposium with existing members and fellows of the Academy, and I believe they had a very stimulating discussion as well. And I would like to invite a number of people to officially open today's ceremony and to welcome you. So to begin with, we will first hear from Professor Lindenstruth, who is the Deputy Scientific Director of FIAS, followed by Professor Brunner, the Vice President of the Goethe-University, then followed by our very own Professor Lutz Bachmann, a Founding Director of the Johanna Quandt Young Academy. So it's now my pleasure to invite Professor Lindenstruth to the stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear guests, on site and online. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome you here at the Frankfurt Institute for Advanced Studies, FIAS, and to open today's award ceremony of the Johanna Quandt Young Academy at Goethe, your host. FIAS is a place dedicated to interdisciplinary research at the highest level. We focus on developing theoretical models and simulations to better understand the complex systems that shape our world in physics, life science, neuroscience, and beyond. As a public foundation, we are committed to scientific excellence, societal responsibility, and sustainability. We foster openness and diversity in our research and in our way we work and think together. Supporting earlier career researchers and providing a space for creativity and new ideas is at the heart of what we do. It is therefore a real pleasure to welcome an event that celebrates exactly this kind of commitment, a community of outstanding early career researchers who think across disciplines and who seek to connect scientific inquiry with broader societal questions. With that, let me once again welcome you all here at Frankfurt and online, and thank the organizers for choosing FIAS as the venue for this special day. I wish you an inspiring award ceremony full of ideas, dialogue, and new beginnings. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, on behalf of Goethe-University, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to the award ceremony 2025 of the Johanna Quandt Young Academy at Goethe. I'm happy to see so many supporters, colleagues, and guests gathered here today to celebrate our early career researchers. To start with, at least I was supposed to start with, to particularly welcome, and I'm particularly honored to welcome State Secretary Christoph Degen. As we just heard, he will be delayed. But I was going to say thank you for coming and also supporting us. Next, I would like to extend my special acknowledgement to Volker Lindenstruth, Scientific Director of the Frankfurt Institute of Advanced Studies and our host today. Thank you for your hospitality and allowing us to be in this wonderful location here at the FIAS Faculty Club. Special thanks also go to Clement Trockner and Matthias Lutz-Bachmann for their exceptional work within the Johanna Quandt Young Academy. And I warmly welcome Gabriele Britz, who now joins as a new director. With their combined expertise, they not only guide the Academy development, but also ensure it remains an inspiring place for young career researchers. And this brings me to probably the most important greeting. A warm welcome to the Johanna Quandt Young Academy Fellows, members, alumni, distinguished senior scientists, and the external board of the Academy, and particularly to the new fellows who are formally and officially admitted to the Academy today. Johanna Quandt Young Academy is a key part of Goethe's academic ecosystem. It supports postdoctoral researchers at a critical stage of their career and helps us to attract, to retain, and connect future academic leaders. Early career researchers, especially those at the R3 level, known as the advanced postdocs, are crucial and critical for future science. However, they also face uncertainties and structural challenges. And that is why we focus on supporting them with building independence, sharing their research profiles, and connecting internationally. And this is only possible thanks to the generous foundation and foundations of the Johanna Quandt Foundation and the Herbert Quandt Foundation. And I warmly welcome Dr. Appelhans, who joins us today as a representative of both foundations. All of our R3 researchers at Goethe-Uni University have the possibility to join the Academy as associated fellows. And this path, we actively encourage them to do so and to join, and we actively propagate this to the R3 career support. And this program offers various funding lines that aims at fostering ECR career development, for example, by international fellowships that enables our researchers to spend some time abroad or to come to Frankfurt. It strengthens our international ties and increases our visibility, both of the researchers and the research at Goethe University. And I'm delighted that several of these fellows are with us today. Although Johanna Quandt Young Academy began as a Goethe initiative, it now reaches out across the Rhine-Main University Alliance, and therefore I welcome fellows from our strategic partners, the Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz and the Technical University of Darmstadt. This expands our disciplinary scope and opens new possibilities for collaborations. Let me also mention the valuable cooperation with many of our research partners, such as the Forschungskolleg Humanwissenschaft, the Leibniz Institutes Senckenberg and Dipf, the Wissenschaftliche Gesellschaft at Goethe University, the Max Planck Institutes, and of course the FIAS. Warm welcome also the representatives of these institutions joining us today. Supporting early career researchers in first place means listening to them, especially when it comes to the structural aspects of academic work. As someone who was until last year also taking presidential responsibilities for ECRs, I know how important it is to create space for open debate and scientific exchange. And I'm particularly happy to see that Johanna Quandt Young Academy does just that, combining independence with responsibilities and expertise with curiosity. Thank you to everyone creating these options and making them becoming reality. I wish all of you inspiring and enjoyable award ceremony. Thank you very much. And I particularly welcome now Staatssekretär Ding. Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, third speaker for the opening, but with very special ideas. Welcome you all. Let me begin by making special mention and welcoming our distinguished guests. And again, Herr Staatssekretär Degen, very warm welcome. Professor Bernhard Brüner, Vice President of Goethe University, Dr. Jörg Appelhans, Professor Volker Lindenstruth, Professor Zimmermann, President of the Wissenschaftliche Gesellschaft of Goethe-University, as well as Dr. Albrecht Graf von Kallnein, Executive Board of the Werner Reimers Foundation, just mentioned before. Welcome, esteemed guests here at Sophia's and online, dear Johanna Quandt Young Academy Fellows, alumni, members, and those joining our ranks today for the official admission to the Johanna Quandt Young Academy at Goethe. I would like to take this opportunity to also warmly welcome our new Johanna Quandt Young Academy Director, Professor Gabriele Pritz. With her appointment, the Academy now proudly incorporates the field of law, a welcome and long-awaited and invaluable addition. Professor Pritz combines an outstanding career with extensive public service. She earned her doctorate here in Frankfurt, where her dissertation was awarded the Baker and McKenzie Prize, and later completed her habilitation in public and European law. She held professorships in Gießen and Frankfurt and served as a judge on the first Senate of the German Federal Constitutional Court in the years 2011 to 2023. Her work has been recognized with numerous honors, including the Meyer-Leibniz Prize of the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft and most recently the Große Verdienstkreuz mit Stern und Schulterband der Bundesrepublik Deutschland. She also served on the UN Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination and conduct research at Harvard and Yale universities. We are deeply grateful to have you and her experience and perspective now in our academy. Having served as the founding director of the Johanna Quandt Young Academy, I have had the privilege of witnessing its development from the very beginning. The Academy has evolved into a space that truly responds to the needs of early career researchers. It offers them the freedom to explore their own academic path while actively contributing to shaping the Academy itself, based on their talents, interests, and ideas. The Johanna Quandt Young Academy is a dynamic community defined not only by its commitment to scientific research, but also by its core principle of fostering interdisciplinary dialogue. The most straightforward reason to apply to the Academy might be, of course, the generous funding it provides. Since the funding of the Academy in 2018, the Johanna Quandt Foundation and more recently the Herbert Quandt Foundation have enabled us to offer tailored support to outstanding early career researchers. We are deeply grateful to these foundations for their sustained commitment to young researchers. This generous funding forms the basis for something greater, far more than the sum of its parts, a vibrant academic community that thrives on exchange across disciplines and institutions. The importance of our support is evident in the large number of strong applications we receive each year and in the remarkable individuals we welcome to the Academy like today. It is even more reflected in the success stories of our alumni, which stand as a testament to the Academy's impact. Allow me to mention just a few recent examples. Javier Ortiz Tudela, now a Ramon y Cajal researcher at the University of Granada with an ERC starting grant. Ricky Dean, now professor at the University of Southampton, also with an ERC starting grant, as well as Andreas Schlund, now professor for analytical biochemistry at the University of Greifswald. And among those alumni present in the audience here today, I mention just as three further examples, Muriel Moser-Gerber, who has received a call to a W3 professorship for ancient history at the University of Münster. Stanislaw Paulau, recently appointed tenure-track professor of global history of Christianity and Eastern Christian studies at the University of Halle-Wittenberg, and Daniele Dimitri, whom you have heard, who just 6 weeks ago became professor of multimodal learning technologies at the German University for Digital Sciences. Our fellows and members, and also our alumni, regularly make time for their already demanding schedules to organize and to participate in our workshops, study days, and academy schools. They do this not out of obligation, but because they value the academy as a place for interdisciplinary dialogue, creative exchange, and collaboration across fields and institutions. One core task our fellows and members take on is the selection of the academic topic. Our current academy topic is complexity, a concept that connects disciplines and challenges conventional academic boundaries. This topic shapes our academy program and inspires a wide range of collaborative projects, fostering exchange between early career and senior researchers and bringing together scientists from diverse disciplines and institutions, both nationally and internationally. I would like to take a moment to highlight our book projects. The first, Johanna Quandt Young Academy publication titled Science Between Norms and Nature, Tenets, Variations, Transformations in Scientific Research, was published in 2023 as an open access edition. Copies are available here, and for those might be interesting who like to take a closer look into the publication. The second book is called Connectivity, Networks, Flows, Interdisciplinary Perspectives. That will be published this summer with, again, Franz Steiner Verlag. The editorial team, and I mentioned the names, Magnus Ressler, Susanne Felix, Javier Ortiz Tudela, Iris Sophia Bibli, Stanislaus Paulau, and Katharina Welling. They all together have brought together contributions from fields as diverse as history, anthropology, neuroscience, medicine, religious studies, comparative literature, psychology, physics, sociology, environmental studies, political science, and, last not least, philosophy. And while this volume is still in production, the seeds for the next one have already been planted. I have it on good authority of Kasia that a new editorial team has volunteered to take the next book on complexity. The project is in its very early stages. so I won't say more, but if you are curious, please feel free to turn to the last page of our printed program today for more information. The Academy provides numerous opportunities to engage with established scientists. Among them is our keynote speaker today, Professor Helga Nowotny. She will be introduced in a moment by Clement Tockner. But allow me to warmly welcome her already now, along with our further distinguished senior scientists, Professor Barbara Stolberg-Rielinger and Professor Janet Herring. She opened this Academy Day with her morning lecture titled Complex and Wicked Problems Call for Inter- and Transdisciplinary Solutions. These three outstanding academic leaders, all internationally respected not only for their specific fields of research, but also for their contributions to science policy and their dedication to supporting early career researchers, they altogether form our external board. They play a vital role in shaping the Academy, most notably through their responsibility for the selection of new fellows. And today we are here to celebrate the admission of new early career researchers to the Johanna Quandt Young Academy. Let us express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished senior scientists, and please join me in giving them a round of applause. The Johanna Quandt Young Academy also greatly benefits from the dedication of many others. Across nearly every faculty of our university, Goethe-Uni, we are fortunate to have young Academy ambassadors whose invaluable support connects us with their departments. Among them is Professor Robert Tambay. Our sincere thanks to you. We are equally grateful to Professor Rainer Forst and to Professor Jürgen Bereiter-Hahn, who are here and who have supported the Academy with continued interest and goodwill over the years. To all of you, thank you for your time, your expertise, and your support. And now I am pleased to invite you, Clement Tockner, Director General of Senckenberg Society and one of our director teams of the Young Academy, the Johanna Quandt Young Academy. I invite you to the stage. Thank you, Clement, for your vision, your commitment, your collaboration, and your openness to early career researchers, and that means for everything you do in order to strengthen our academy. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, a scientist whose work has shaped the way we think about science itself, and his influence extends far beyond disciplinary and national boundaries. Professor Helga Nowotny is one of Europe's most respected voices in the field of science and technology studies. Her academic journey began with a doctorate in law in Vienna, followed by a Ph.D. in sociology at the Columbia University in New York, and she has held leading positions at institutions across Europe, including University of Vienna, ETH Zurich, and the Wissenschaftskolleg in Berlin. What truly distinguishes Helga Nowotny is her continuous commitment to enabling others, to building structures that help the next generation of researchers to flourish. As one of the founding members and later president of the European Research Council, she helped turn the ERC into a key pillar of Europe's research landscape and into a beacon of scientific excellence and independence. Professor Nowotny's work is also a continuous invitation to reflect on the role of science in society, on the promises and risks of emerging technologies, and on how we deal with complexity and uncertainty. Her publications, including the last one, Future Needs Wisdom. I haven't read it, but this is what I will do this weekend. Have reached audiences far beyond academia. At the same time, she's a tireless advocate for inter- and transdisciplinarity, for building bridges not only among disciplines, but also between science and society. She is chair of the Scientific Advisory Board of the Complexity Science Hub in Vienna, chair of the ERC Council Forum Austria, and vice president of the Linda Nobel Laureate Meetings Foundation. She serves on numerous scientific advisory boards and councils across Europe. Her exceptional contributions to science and science policy have been recognized with numerous honors, including the Arthur Burkhardt Prize, the John Desmond Bernal Prize, and the Leibniz Medal. She holds honorary doctorates from leading institutions worldwide, such as the Weizmann Institute of Science, the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and several European universities, including Oxford. It's a great honor to welcome you today. Thank you for sharing your time, your insight into your experience with us. Please join me in welcoming Helga Nowotny.
Distinguished guests, colleagues, and especially the young fellows here in the room. I want to thank Clement for this very generous introduction, and the chosen theme for this year's complexity is a very appropriate one, because as Clement already mentioned, it touches many disciplines, but it also reaches out to society. And what I would like to do in the next 30 minutes is to share some reflections on this topic. And I want to begin with what I think is an increase in complexity. You can question whether it's inevitable, but I think I can convince you it is happening. I'm thinking back of the landmark study that John Maynard Smith and Urs Satmari published in the 1990s, The Major Transitions in Evolution, where starting with replicating molecules up to the evolution of language and human societies, they tried to find out what were the mechanisms of transition from one stage of life in evolution to the next. But it was clear evolution has no telos. As we know, there is no goal of evolution, but they thought there's an increase in complexity. Or look at the very interesting global data bank, CESHAT it is called, where the major archaeological findings, all kinds of data that were found in the world about the past of human societies, came up with the higher complexity of social organizations. And again, it stands for an increase in complexity. And even cosmologists, at least some of them, are speculating that there might be an increase in complexity in the universe if you believe their thesis, their hypothesis about functional information. But complexity is also something that we experience in our daily lives. We all feel there is an increase in connectivity. Networks are getting denser and denser, which means we suffer from an overload of connections, an overload of information. And thus, this is one way how we experience in the present that seems to be tighter and tighter because we see this compression of time. through complexity. Then, of course, this is exacerbated by technology, and here it is particular artificial intelligence that makes us realize that life is becoming more complex also for us on a day-to-day basis. Large language models with their amazing performance are both dazzling and worrisome. If you think about all the talk about artificial general intelligence that might, do away with us humans and other, in my view, nonsense, but it is something that we have to watch very closely, what it does with us, and especially this enormous concentration of economic power that goes with it. And then, last but not least, we also experience a much more tighter and more complex relationship with the natural environment. We all know there's nonlinearity in climate systems. There are many interconnections in the oscillations, both in the atmosphere, stratosphere, oceans, etc. And all this testifies to this increase in complexity. And this leaves us with a very important question. How can we keep up with it? How can we keep what I would call a modicum of control? Now, there have always been strategies, because we are not the first generation that experiences complexity. And every living organism, I would say, has to deal with complexity. It's not just us humans. And one strategy that you find everywhere in the living world is reduction of complexity. There are filters that are being used, filters in the perception, what you take in, what you leave out because you think it is not important. And also the kind of dealing with information overload. We have been quite inventive. For instance, we have maps, and maps are a reduction of complexity. We are very much aware a map is not the same as the landscape that you see outside. It's a reduction, but a very sophisticated reduction of complexity. Or think of indicators, the complexity of economic life. You use indicators as a form of complexity. So I want to say by this, we have strategies of reducing complexity. But then the question of, are we still in control, comes back and haunts us. And we have a deep-seated fear of losing control. And particularly when it comes to artificial intelligence. It is a play that these technologies enter with us because they link to our anthropomorphic tendencies. Anthropomorphic tendencies, we all know them. If something is wrong with your computer, you start to speak to the machine. You say, you stupid thing, why don't you do what I want you to do? And this anthropomorphic tendency, knowing very well that it is not a human or sentient being that has intentions, but this is built into us, and this makes it so much more difficult to deal with it and keeping this sense of we are still in control. Now, there's also the illusion of control. And we have seen, and we know who some of the CEOs in Silicon Valley are, who think they are unlimitable in the power and in control. And then there is the exact opposite of it. There are people who feel powerless, who feel they have no control over their lives, let alone over the technology that is surrounding them and which they cannot escape. So there are these challenges how to cope with increasing complexity, in particular complexity that comes through the interaction with technology. It's never technology alone. It's how it is embedded in our societies and how we interlink with the technology. And there is the lure of technology. In German, we have the old myth of the Zauberlehrling, the sorcerer's apprentice. You create something, and then you discover you can no longer control your creation. And therefore, I think we have to be very careful in terms of what does this technology do with us. Is it only efficiency-driven? Or is there, as every engineer will tell you, you have to think about redundancy. You have to build some inertia into a system. If it is only efficiency-driven, you will discover its vulnerability because it will just, stop doing what you want it to do if things go wrong. And there are the unintended consequences of human action that we very slowly start to expand, trying to find out what are the consequences. We had plastic, just one example, wonderful invention that made life so much easier for most of humanity. If you think of the women in Africa and other places that had to carry, these big jugs on their head, and then the plastic canisters came around and they were carrying water home in the plastic. Now we are flooded with microplastics. So these are some of the many unintended consequences of human action. And then there is, and this is the hopeful sign, the power of scientific understanding. We know complex systems exist in nature, they exist in society. We see them all over. And some of the features of complex systems are that they have emergent properties. There is something that comes about through the phenomenon of emergence, through the connections and the way how the networks change. And this makes it difficult to predict. We know there are tipping points, but it's not so easy to find out when such a tipping point will be reached. Now, since we are here to do what science enables us to do, namely to increase our understanding of the world and of ourselves, the question is, do we still understand what we make? And this takes me back to Giambattista Vico, an Italian humanist, a representative of the Italian Enlightenment, the early 18th century, who with his Scienza Nova, as he called it, the new science, was opening up the social world for scientific understanding. And he among many other things, he was known for this principle, verum esse ipsum factum. You only understand what you make. And this has served us well, because by making things, every engineer knows what I'm talking about. A child that takes something apart in order to find out what is inside, what makes the thing work. This is all following Vico's insight. We only understand what we make. But the question for us today is, do we still understand what we make? And the answer is, do we live in a world of our making? Yes and no. Yes, the world is of our making. You have the mega cities. By now, more than 50% of the world live already in cities. And we know the mega cities, particularly in South Asia and Asia, are enormous conglomerations of human living together, and you have to think about sewage, about nutrition, about energy. All that is of our making, and, we were able to do something. We also have the latest scientific advances. If you think of CRISPR, this wonderful tool where you can edit specific genes in a way that was unthinkable only 20 years ago, and many more examples. So yes, this is a world of our making, and of course the way how we have shaped the world around us for the better and for the worse. But no, because we are very much reminded that we are never completely in control. So the world that is of our making, what we have done, we fail to understand it in many respects. And when we have fires and drafts following each other in many parts of the world, this is a strong reminder. But we keep on expanding our understanding. And here I wanted to thank Janet for this morning for introducing us already to the gap between knowing and doing. We know much more, but we often fail to act according to what we know and what knowledge tells us what we ought to do. So one of the questions is, of course, how can we bridge this gap? And here I like this notion that comes from a British philosopher by the name of Julian Biaggi, and he speaks of technophronesis. You remember Aristotle with phronesis, which is the practical wisdom. There's episteme, knowledge. There is techne, the technology, and there's phronesis, how you apply in practice what you know and what you do. And Biaggi speaks about technophronesis, that we have to find out and become better in knowing what to use technology for and when. So we know so much more. We know that there is this gap between knowledge and between doing. We know in this gap there are institutions, there are norms, there is regulation, but there are also installations, there is infrastructure, there is the technical materiality of our world. All this stands between knowledge and doing. It can help and it can hinder, and we need to find out. Now, how can we harness the power of science to better understand complexity? And this is a question that I think the new fellows and the old fellows who are here in the room, I think, will be working on. How can we harness the power of science in understanding? Now, science is very peculiar in the sense that the more we know, the more questions we ask. Think about it. You would think we run out of questions because we know already so much. No, we come up with new questions. And artificial intelligence is one of these things. Of course, there are questions that are related to the effects it has, but there are also interesting questions. Let me just tell you one little story. When ChatGPT came up, a friend of mine, a mathematician, I asked him, well, I'm sure you have been using it. And he said, of course, I've been using it. So I said, what was your experience? And he said, well, I gave it a mathematical problem, and it solved it very well. It made a few mistakes, but also a good mathematician could make a few mistakes. But, he said, what really surprised me was the way how ChatGPT arrived at the solution was completely different from the way how human mathematicians would arrive at it. And I think this is just one example how new questions arise. You can say, okay, does the human brain work differently from the machine? Obviously, but how? But you can also say, well, mathematics is an old cultural technology, old cultural knowledge. The Babylonians had it, the old Chinese had it, the Mayans had it. So mathematics evolved. It's a cultural evolution. So if we had a different kind of mathematics, maybe, we would ask the question different. So this is just one of the many examples that I think artificial intelligence leads us to ask new questions. Last but not least, how we see ourselves when we use this new technology. So there is something, Stuart Kaufman called it the adjacent possible. There's this enormous space of possible. The reality out there is full of possibilities of a potential that we can only tap into. It's surplus reality, if you want. And the future is unknown. It is open, but it is unknown. Eugene Wigner spoke about the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics. And also the artificial neural networks, this particular kind of AI development that we have since 15 years or so, is unreasonably effective. We don't quite understand how it works, but it is effective. So all this pushes us to use the power of science to keep on questioning. And it is through a good research question that you as a young researcher can proceed. Think very carefully about the research questions that you are asking. And since I have mentioned artificial intelligence a number of times, let me also remind you that scientific skepticism is an epistemic virtue, and we have to nurture it and cultivate it. In German, we use the word Wissenschaftsskepsis, and this makes me very unhappy, because it's not Wissenschaftsskepsis. What we need to propagate is wissenschaftliche Skepsis, scientific skepticism. And one person who said this very clearly was physicist Richard Feynman. He said, science is what we have learned about how to keep from fooling ourselves. This was already clear to the first modern scientists in the 17th century, or even 16th century, who called themselves natural philosophers. The word scientist comes only from the 19th century. And they knew we cannot trust our senses. We want to find out how the natural world works. But it is not our senses. So we have to distrust them. We have to verify. We have to validate again and again. And this is something that I think we as scientists also have to convey to the general public and to politicians. I am closing with how to move forward in coping with increasing complexity. I think we need to push the limits of understanding. Pushing the limits means science thrives at the cusp of uncertainty. You want to move into what is not yet known. And this is what pushes science and scientists forward. And keep pushing the limits. At the same time, be aware of the limitations. The limitations exist because we know only a tiny bit of this super abundant reality of the potential that is out there. We know that the limitations are there because we never have to trust blindly, but we have to validate. We have to make sure that what we find is really both by our peers, but also in our interaction with so-called reality stands up. And then what can you do to address the gap between knowing and action that Janet mentioned already in the morning? I think, first of all, forget wishful thinking. And especially young people want to change the world. And since we all were young ones, we can understand you. But there is no shortcut of changing the world. Rather, you have to start working on it. You have to explore how transitions happen. And there is non-linearity in most. This is part of complexity. So therefore, be patient, but be persistent in trying to find out how transitions happen. And I want to end with a little anecdote that came to my mind when I was walking here a couple of years ago, when I was visiting professor in Singapore at the NTU, and there I had the pleasure and privilege to meet the late Sidney Brenner, Nobel laureate in medicine and physiology, very famous person. And Sidney was known for his quick and witty sentences. And at one point during dinner, he said, something like mathematics is about the perfect, physics is about the optimum, and the life sciences are about the satisfactory. And I said, Sidney, but what about the social sciences? And he had not thought about them. And so I said, sorry, I have to complete your insight. The social sciences are about the messy and the messiness. And we live in a very messy world, but we have to learn how to deal with it better. Thank you very much.
Professor Nowotny, thank you very much for a very pertinent lecture there on the challenges of identifying and navigating this interconnected complexity of our world today, and indeed the importance of harnessing the full utility and the importance of the utility of science and technology, but with reflection. So we won't be having a Q&A session just right now with Professor Nowotny, and however, I'm sure you'll have questions you'd like to ask her as well about the topics raised, and you'll have the opportunity to do so after this ceremony with some refreshments. Okay. So we've come to the moment that our new members and fellows have been waiting for, the presentation of the awards. So could I please ask Professor Tockner and Professor Lutz-Bachmann to return to the stage, please? And while they're doing that, dear members of the audience, each fellow and member has written a short biography of themselves, and you'll find that short profile here in our booklet. I'll pass the awards to you. Okay. So do please read more about them here, as I'll only briefly mention their area of research as I call them up. To the awardees, I will announce each of you individually. So I'd like you to come forward to receive your certificate from the directors and remain for a photo together and then return to your seat, okay? As you can see, it's a little cozy up here. Okay, I'd love to have all of you at the same time. Okay. Good. So it really is my great honour to call upon Dr. Hiwa Asadpour. Please. Hiwa is a linguist researching in the field of corpus and computational linguistics. Please come forward, Hiwa. Then we have Dr. Anna Clement. Anna is being awarded for her research in cognitive neuroscience. Next we have Dr. Berku Guberts. Unfortunately, Berku is unable to join us today because she's actually speaking at the Applications of Dynamical Systems Conference in Denver, Colorado. And I believe we have a picture for her. She's pictured here. Yeah, is she? Yeah. Oh, okay, I can't see that. Okay, good. So at a symposium where she gave a talk on dynamical systems in mathematical biology, disease modeling, and biological processes, which is related to the proposal that she put forward to this award. Thank you. Good. Next we have Dr. Katharina Hopper, and I have a slight correction to make here. Katharina is being awarded sabbatical fellowship, and her research is in the field of sociological and feminist theory. We have Dr. Dara Patel. Dara is an architect, and her research is in the area of urban studies, migration, and architecture. Dr. Johannes Petri. Johannes is a political economist, and his research focuses on the international political economy. Dr. Johanna Wilmers. Johanna is an educational scientist, and her research area is in childhood studies. Dr. Edgar Wong. Edgar is a biologist, and more specifically researching evolutionary biology. Dr. Nico Bass. Now, we are awarding 2 members today, and unfortunately, Nico is unable to attend today, but nevertheless, we'd like to award him in absentia for his outstanding research in the field of neuroscience, psychiatry, and psychotherapy. As you can see here, Nico is currently enjoying a long-planned holiday through Europe in a motorhome with his young family. What we do have today with us is Professor Greta Wagner. Greta is here being awarded for her outstanding research in the field of cultural sociology. Thank you. And as Professor Lutz Bachmann mentioned earlier, that the JQYA have appointed 3 new distinguished senior scientists to support and guide our fellows. We would also like to recognise and award them for their appointment and commitment to the Academy. So if I could kindly ask Professors Herring, Nowotny and Stolberg-Rillinger to come forward all together, we would like to present you with a certificate and a small gift. Thank you. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Good. Oh, Professor Britz, yes, of course. Please come forward. Yes. Thank you very much. So we have a lot of logistics here today, up and down on this small stage. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen here, we have a very accomplished and outstanding group of scientists, and I'm sure you'll be interested to learn more about them personally as well. So I would love to speak to everybody if I could. However, I would just like to ask 3 to come forward so that we can have a little chat with them and find out a little bit more about them. So if I may, I would like to ask Anna Clement, Dara and Johannes to come forward, please, to the stage. Yes. I think, is this on? Yes, I've got sound. So thank you for being so brave and coming forward. So, Anna, in addition to being a cognitive neuroscientist, you have another string to your bow, in particular a very artistic one, right? So I see that you have a Masters of Music in solo performance. Could you tell us what instrument you play?
I play the bassoon. I'm a solo performer in bassoon for many years. I have an international career. And I also conduct. I play the piano, of course.
Okay, piano and bassoon, and you conduct. So maybe we might have you performing with us one day. No doubt. Keep that in mind, Kasia. Yeah. Good. So in reading your profile, I was interested in how you have interwoven your two specialisms into your current project. Could you very briefly tell us of an aspect or interesting learning that you've had from this multi-pronged approach of cognition, behavior, and creativity in your research?
Yeah, thank you so much. I always find, so in my personal experience, I always find interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity as an excellent opportunity for learning, as it allows for the emergence of synergies and opportunities to think out of the box, which is essential for science and for artistic creation, right?
Mm-hmm. And so you were studying, in your research, what age group are you looking at in particular? Is there a particular age group in the new project where you're measuring this creativity?
All of them. So we have developmental studies, but we also have more broader cognitive research going on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So, and Dara, I noticed in your biography that you've worked as an architect on 3 continents. So in India, in Switzerland, and in Australia, my home country, you have contributed to large-scale buildings and urban developments, shall I say, and high-rise building projects, or housing in particular, right? So you've now gone and expanded your research from physical structures to now explore the urban sociology that can be observed from residential segregation and migration. Could I ask you, what inspired you to make this transition from, practicing as an architect to academia?
Sure. It was really this personal experience of working in, different countries with different culture. Was that when I started to get more interested into the social meaning of architecture, and this transition was really kind of gradual, but quite organic, and it was really finally it happened in Australia while I was practicing as an architect and also teaching. And I think it was, this opportunity to do both things that kind of made me realize that if I really want to investigate this deeper dynamics that I'm interested in, it is academia that is going to allow me to ask these critical questions about the relationship, between the built environment and the social change. So, in short, now instead of just designing spaces, I actually decode, spaces and try to think of them what these spaces mean for people and their lives.
Interesting. This also echoes what Professor Nowotny just said about making things and then taking them apart. And I find this a very interesting overlap between industry and academia and how you found that one complements the other. Thank you. Johannes, the thorn among the roses. You wear several hats in a number of institutions. So let me get this right. You're a senior researcher at Goethe-University, a principal investigator of the StatCap Finance Project, and a research fellow at the Centre for the Study of Globalization and Regionalization at the University of Warwick. Oh, that was a mouthful. Okay, you are also a China expert and have conducted extensive fieldwork in Asia and Europe, more specifically in China. And you've also had stints as a visiting fellow in Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Beijing. So I've been stalking you. So what brought your interest in researching financial markets and their subsequent integration into global markets? That really intrigued me.
Well, thank you. So basically, before doing my PhD 10 years ago, I worked in finance for 2 years. And one of my tasks back then was to do regulatory reporting on Asian capital market development for management. And it was interesting because there was a disconnect between what I had learned in kind of my academic studies in political economy and economics, where Asian finance was basically bank-based, right? Markets didn't play a role. But at the time, in my day-to-day experience, I saw so many things happening and unfolding and developing that I really wanted to explore this kind of what seemed like a new frontier in kind of the development of global financial markets. So I went into China without any kind of predispositions of what I would find, because my feeling was that these markets function fundamentally different from kind of what we consider to be kind of financial markets here in the West. So yeah, that's what brought me to that particular topic.
Thank you. Very interesting. So here we have the converse. We have from theory to industry to unravel it that way. Thank you. So tell me, Johannes, how's your Chinese?
Very, very bad. Very bad.
I was a bit curious how you conducted all your interviews with.
Luckily, in finance, most people speak English. I mean, that is quite helpful.
Good, thank you. So Anna, you already adopted a very multidisciplinary approach to your research, and so I would love to know, and I'm sure you could share with us, how you hope this multidisciplinary collaboration within the JQYA on the theme of complexity will contribute to your research.
Yeah, thank you. I'm deeply interested in understanding cognition and complex systems, so I think this merging of approaches, or this synergy of shared interests might help both develop our different approaches to cognition and to also artificial intelligence, so to improve artificial intelligence systems. And in particular, I think both approaches can contribute to each other because they both have some limitations that each other can somehow cover, and can definitely help advance the field of cognition, cognitive science, and including both human natural cognition and artificial intelligence.
Okay, because the artificial intelligence only knows what the humans put into it, I guess. Good. So, Dara, as part of the selection process for the fellowship, candidates are asked to, and this is for members of the public as well, to define the compatibility or the link that their research has to the Academy's current theme of complexity. Could you briefly outline what this was for you?
So my current work really traces the housing trajectory of the highly skilled Indian migrants in Frankfurt. Now, these are the migrants who live in Frankfurt, but they invest not only in Germany, but also back in India. So, which is essentially, cross-border. It's, crossing social classes. It's even crossing policy regimes. Yeah, so the complexity lies not just in the geography. The complexity here is that it actually ties together, architecture, migration, transnational capital, and urban inequality. So for me, the complexity really lies in the entanglement, of the people and the places, of, policy and identity, and the built environment and the social world.
Yeah, I can see the complex interweaving here, even with Anna's work on behavior, perhaps, you might find some parallels there with her as well. So, Johannes, how will being a part of this interdisciplinary academy enhance and advance your work?
So basically, for my academic life so far, interdisciplinary work has been really enriching. I mean, my cooperations have been mostly outside of my own political science discipline, with ethnographers, business scholars, economists, geographers, and these were really helpful to understand this kind of multidimensional complex system of finance and China's integration into the global financial system. And now I'm basically embarking on a new mission, which is to understand, or a new research project to understand kind of contemporary transformations of global finance, because as Professor Nowotny mentioned, right, we have geopolitical tensions that really complicate the international political and economic system. So now we have a complete reconfiguration of kind of this relationship between states, markets, and power that was quite stable for a long period of kind of financial globalization. And now we have this new context of kind of geopolitical competition that really changes everything, if you will. So I'm really looking forward to kind of expanding this kind of interdisciplinary kind of conversation about complexity within the academy.
I'm seeing an interesting publication coming up for our next book, no doubt. Yeah. So as you already mentioned, you know, the developing geopolitical landscape, especially with the US and China, and indeed China's reach into the LATAM states, will no doubt provide food and fertile ground for your further research projects. Yeah. So thank you very much for coming forward and speaking with us. And you know, please take the opportunity. I'd love to speak with everybody else, and no doubt we can all share afterwards during the reception. Thank you once again for coming forward, and congratulations.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we come to an end of this inspiring day, allow me to offer a few final words. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of those who have contributed to making this Academy Day such a success. Our sincere thanks go to the Johanna Quandt Young Academy team for the seamless organization, namely Katharina Welling and Hilke Flexig. Many thanks. Also, great thanks to Ruth for leading us through this day. And a great thanks to all the speakers and chairs for their inspiring contributions during the whole day. And thank you in particular, Helga, for your presentation. It's always a privilege to listen because we can benefit from this accumulated knowledge and wisdom that you are providing. We are also very deeply grateful to FIAS for their generous hospitality. It is a pleasure to hold this event in such a vibrant interdisciplinary setting, and we are coming again. I think today's discussion has shown that it is key to cross-disciplinary, institutional, geographic boundaries. There's no other way to really find also solutions to all these pressing issues that we have. And it was a very great example this day and this morning to see all these kind of discussions and sharing all these competences across a broad range of disciplines. The months ahead will offer many opportunities to continue the conversations we share today. Among them is our upcoming Johanna Quandt Young Academy workshop on defining the new academic topic, which will take place in this summer. In October, we will gather again for the Johanna Quandt Young Academy School. This year, we will be in Brussels at the Hessian representation there. We have already held 2 study days this year, and 2 more are still to come. In October, Seung-Gu Kim, together with the ambassador Melanie Wald-Fuhrmann, will explore complexity and aesthetic beings at the Max Planck Institute for Empirical Aesthetics. And in November, David Gerard from Mainz and Ambassador Esther Renke will host a study day on complexity and language and its acquisition at Goethe-University at Campus West End. And let me also draw your attention to the next call of fellows at the Johanna Quandt Young Academy, which will open this autumn. We warmly encourage early career researchers from all disciplines, including, we hope, also some from FIAS, to apply and become part of our growing community. And last but not least, save the date for the next Johanna Quandt Academy Day. It will take May 8, 2026. At Campus West End. With this, thank you so much for being here, for all listening to the discussion, for all the presenters, and I think we have now plenty of time to further exchange all our ideas of such an inspiring day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Tockner. And I would also like to thank our musicians. Thank you, Pushan and Stefan, for playing for us today. And thank you for joining us and celebrating the awards today with our new cohort. To our awardees, our senior scientists, and our directors, quite a group. Please make sure, as soon as I finish, could you please make your way to the balcony? Yeah, thank you. So our photographer would like to take a group photo. So we have a wonderful backdrop. So please, before you go to the back and start, getting into the refreshments, please take your photo first. Okay, so that's members, fellows, directors, scientists. Okay, good. And for everyone else, I conclude these proceedings and invite you to please stay for some refreshments, which will be served at the back of the room. Thank you very much and goodbye.